So you've heard the story, right? The noble birth of Athenian democracy, the dawn of equality, the breaking of tribal chains, so every citizen, rich or poor, could have an equal voice in the affairs of the city. Cue the harp music, cue the statues bathed in golden light, and somewhere in the background, an actor with a perfectly trimmed beard declaiming loftily about freedom. That's the myth. The reality. It smells like unwashed feet, rancid olive oil, and goat shit. And you aren't watching from clean, climate-controlled safety. No, you are in it. Congratulations. You're a small-time nobody in the countryside outside Athens, somewhere around 508 BCE, just before or during the great political reforms of Cleisthenes. These reforms will supposedly set you free. In practice, they're going to bulldoze the political structure of your life until your local world, your village, your clan, your familiar little knot of neighbors and relatives, is scrambled like a plate of overcooked lentils. You don't get a vote in whether it happens. You just get the smell, and the noise, and the fallout. The good news is, you're about to be part of history. The bad news is, history has bedbugs. You wake up one morning in your clay-floored hut. House is a generous term, really just a box with holes in it. To find your brother pointing out that there's gossip coming down from Athens. Cleisthenes is tinkering with the tribal system. The old 4 tribes, family-based, heritage-bound, predictable in their corruption, are going to be replaced with 10 brand new ones, named after heroes. Men you've never met, men whose heroic deeds basically amount to having the right blood and dying in picturesque ways. Sounds harmless enough. Right, heroes are nice. Except those tribes. They aren't based on family anymore. They're based on your deme. Deme is your local district, and now, thanks to our brilliant reformer, each tribe deliberately mixes city folk, inland farmers, and coastal fishermen. That's the point. He wants to scatter you like seeds in a windy field. Why? Because before this, tribal politics meant rural clans like yours could block the city's will. Powerful families ruled their own patch of land, like stubborn weeds. The city couldn't easily tell you what to do when your uncle knew everyone from the village to the hills, and could call in favors like magic. The old rural political machine, dusty, smelly, blood-bound, had teeth. Cleisthenes doesn't like teeth. He likes control. So here you are. You used to know precisely who mattered in local politics. The man whose father owned 3 oxen, the priest who only smells slightly less awful during festivals, and your cousin who could drink everyone under the table without vomiting publicly. Now your tribe includes a sandal maker from the city who thinks goat cheese smells interesting, a fisherman from the coast whose clothes feel like they've been marinated in brine and fish guts, a farmer from hills so far inland you're not sure it's still Attica. You share nothing except the same general level of hygiene with bad, and the same vague suspicion that the other man's bread tastes weird. The good news is, you're now connected to more people. The bad news is, you actively dislike most of them. You used to run your little village's affairs by gathering under a shady tree, the smell of mutton fat from the nearest cook wafting through the air, and quietly deciding which cousin gets a share of the land. It wasn't fair, but at least you knew whose bribes were acceptable. Now Athens has introduced a new council, 500 men, chosen from all 10 tribes, drawn from local demes like yours, but deliberately mixed, so your vote depends on strangers. The city chooses who gets to sit there. Your personal history, the local gossip, the grudges, your uncle's political maneuvering, is now meaningless in the new tribe. You're a small piece of an administrative puzzle, and Athens is holding the pen. It's efficient, which is another way of saying it's brutal. You feel it slowly. The village festivals start to mix outsiders in. Decisions about tribute, military service, road building, all run through people whose homes you've never seen. You stop hearing your clan names in politics. Old men who used to hold quiet sway are just grumbling in corners, irrelevant now, unless they get picked for some rotated council. Military service gets caught in the shuffle too. Previously, your tribe's fighters knew each other. Same fields, same taverns, same grudges. Now you get lumped with city boys who barely know which end of a spear goes in the enemy. You stand in formation next to a fisherman whose calluses are in all the wrong places, And behind you is a potter who thinks armor looks better polished, as if that stops arrows. The good news is, you'll be defending the whole of Attica. The bad news is, whole means you get killed alongside strangers instead of cousins. Slowly, the old rural tribe dissolves. Not with drama, no war drums, no burning houses, just a slow rot of relevance. Your village elders realize they can't swing the votes anymore. Family plots start to get reassigned by city-led bureaucrats. Decisions about taxes, markets, military levies, all filtered through Athens. The political clout your uncle spent decades building is wrecked. The smell of power in your village, slightly musty, goat-heavy, familiar, is replaced by the sterile scent of regulations written in ink. Fact, Cleisthenes did reorganize tribes to weaken aristocratic rural power. Punchline, which is great news if you live in Athens. Less so if you live where the goats do. Even religion changes. The old tribal-based festivals, noisy, smelly, built around your own local heroes, are now joined by big city versions. The new tribe has its own hero names, its own ceremonies. You're expected to worship side by side with people whose accents you don't even like, and whose wine is frankly questionable. You stand there while a coastal man pours a sacrifice of tiny fish into the brazier. Your stomach turns, the smoke smells like bad dreams. Their forms sound so noble on papyrus, breaking clan control, equalizing representation, giving ordinary citizens a voice. But you feel the cost daily. It's the loss of the only power network you understood. It's becoming a political orphan in your own land. It's sitting in a crowd, realizing noon here cares if your crops fail, because they'll just buy their grain from somewhere else. The good news is, Athens is now stronger, more united, harder for tyrants to seize. The bad news is, if you're not Athens, you're just cargo. Decades later, historians will call this the triumph of democracy. You'll just remember being in a hot, crowded meeting, listening to a sandal maker explain your planting schedule. You'll remember the taste of cheap wine passed from hand to hand, warm and sour, same cup for 20 people. You'll remember the long walk back to your village past acres that are no longer yours. And you will remember the smell. Always the smell. A bouquet of sweat, goat, and whatever passes for civic unity when strangers are forced together. So yes, Cleisthenes broke the rural tribal political structure, efficiently, comprehensively, and you will live in his people's system until the day you die. Your world, familiar, filthy, and at least predictable, has been traded for a larger, filthier, unpredictable one. That shining Athenian democracy people romanticize today. It's built to dismantling the only power base your rural life had. And if it makes you grateful for your modern, representative democracy, with its climate control, its anonymous political bickering, and the sweet, sweet absence of communal goat smell. Good, you should be. Because whatever your local council screws up today, at least it doesn't smell like a fish sacrifice in summer. And chosen is a generous word, more like randomly plucked like a chicken feather and thrown into a pile. Fact, Cleisthenes' system was designed to break old alliances. Punchline, which means your alliances, they weren't ancient tyranny. They were just how you stopped the coastal guys from stealing your grain. You attend one of the new tribal meetings in the city. This is supposed to be the shining star of democracy. Citizens gathered to decide their fate together. It is, in smell terms, like 20 different kinds of sweat and 40 different ways to ferment a human aroma. City men with their perfumed oils, which after 2 days of summer heat smell like rancid flowers. Fishermen with their clothes stiff from salt and fish slime. Farmers with soil so ingrained in their skin they could plant seeds in their hands. You're in the middle of all this, trying to hear over the constant noise of shouting. No one waits their turn. Privacy. What's that? Seating. You get the ground, if you're lucky enough not to be standing in someone else's goat droppings. The good news, everyone gets to speak. The bad news, everyone thinks they need to speak. Before, decisions about land in your rural deme were made by men who actually walk the land. Who knew which field floods and which one hides enough stones to ruin a plough. Now the coastal fisherman has strong opinions about your inland wheat. The sandal maker thinks you should grow olives because he read somewhere they're fashionable. You try to explain that an olive tree takes years to fruit and you will starve long before then. Someone interrupts you to talk about the importance of civic unity. Someone else throws in a metaphor about Athens as one body, which makes you think of a collective sweaty body, and the smell fits. Fact, this system produces policies designed for everyone. Punchline. And everyone means no one in particular. Especially not you. DMA boundaries now matter more than family ties.